Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth from Cruise Blog. Today, I'm excited to talk to y'all about my solo cruising experience on board Carnival Celebration. Let's get into it. After 3 solo cruises on board Royal Caribbean and MSC ships, I took my first solo cruise on Carnival Cruise Line and spent 7 nights on board Carnival Celebration, traveling to Amber Cove, San Juan, and St. Maarten. Not only was this my first solo cruise with Carnival, but it was also my first ever Carnival cruise, so I truly had no idea what to expect. While I was worried that I would find the party-like environment overwhelming as a solo cruiser, I ended up loving every second of my trip. During this cruise, I got to learn what I love and hated about cruising with Carnival, as well as think about the pros and cons of cruising alone. While I've known this for a while, I love the experience of traveling alone in the airport. Growing up on the East Coast with grandparents who lived in Texas meant that I was shipped off for some quality time with them at least once per year, starting when I was about 12 years old. Since then, I have always preferred flying by myself. There's nobody to bicker or keep up with, and I can breeze through TSA pre-check without having to wait on others. Thankfully, my flight from Charlotte to Miami was on time, so I didn't have to deal with any issues alone. I took off at 6:10 p.m. and was on the ground in Florida around 8. A con is that solo cruising can feel isolating at times. Personally, this is the biggest negative of taking a cruise by yourself. It's human nature to want to have someone to share life experiences with. Embarkation day can feel lonely, as I don't have a group to take pictures with or browse through shore excursion offerings with others. During sail away on Carnival Celebration, I ended up finding a place to watch the action with a cocktail in hand, rather than getting involved. I know that if I were with my friends, I would have been dragged out onto the Lido dance floor. Eating alone can be awkward too, especially when you're just itching to talk to someone to debrief all the fun you had that day. I ate at Chibang the first night, and I thankfully had a fun waiter who talked to me a little bit and kept me entertained. This made me feel a little bit more positive about all the great experiences to come. Since I was alone, I had to force myself out of my shell to talk to other cruisers. As lonely as taking a cruise by yourself may be, it's a great time to force yourself to meet new people. On my first ever solo cruise on board Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas, I met the nicest family from Denver, Colorado, who essentially ended up adopting me for the week. I ate dinner with them just about every night and even spent the day at Perfect Day at Coco Cay with them. While sailing alone on Carnival Celebration, I met 2 cousins from Raleigh, North Carolina during dinner on the second night. We were all seated at the same time, although at different tables, but bonded over the shared experience we had of an exceedingly long wait time. I had checked in to eat at Cucina del Capitano around 5:50 p.m. and was not seated until closer to 7 p.m. I ended up eating dinner with them 3 more times, and we went to some shows together and even did some gambling together. Even when meeting new people, there were some experiences that I had to do alone, like riding Bolt. One of the most unique things about Carnival's Excel class is Bolt. When Mardi Gras launched in 2021, she was the first cruise ship in the world to feature a roller coaster on board, and when Carnival Celebration followed in 2022, she officially became the second. Unfortunately, this activity is not included in the cost of your cruise fare. Each ride costs $15, meaning that it can get pretty expensive for a large family. I found the price to be worth it though. I just wish that I had someone to ride it with, as the ride is designed to fit 2 people per car. I would have loved to get off and be able to look over at a friend and say, "Wasn't that one of the neatest things?" My interior stateroom on Carnival Celebration was one of the smallest cruise ship cabins I have ever stayed in. Since I was alone though, I never felt cramped. My cabin technically could have fit 3 people, but I think I would have had a miserable vacation if my dad, sister, and I all squeezed into the tiny 158 square foot cabin. While on the smaller side, I did love how modern my room felt. The only issue was how prominently I could feel the split between the 2 twin beds. My cruise ended up costing me $1,900 since I was alone and had to pay the single supplement fee. Since cabins are based on double occupancy, this surcharge is applied to single travelers to help the cruise line cover the cost of the would-be second guest. Some cruise lines have dedicated solo cabins, so you can avoid paying essentially for 2 people. Carnival, however, is not one of those lines. If I had someone else with me, I would have paid closer to $950 instead. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my vacation and would definitely consider sailing on a Carnival Excel class ship again in the future, but I don't think it was worth close to $2,000. On my solo cruise, I loved that my daily schedule was completely dependent on what I wanted to do. The morning I ate at Emerald's Bistro for breakfast, I didn't have to ask anyone whether we should spend the extra money or not. For lunch, if I was craving tacos, I could venture over to Blue Iguana without having to come up with a meeting point. If I wanted to lounge on the Lido deck, I was able to, although I did get text messages from friends at home reminding me to reapply sunscreen. My time on board was truly my time. Anyone rarely has the opportunity to plan their day around their personal desires without taking into consideration others around them. All in all, solo cruising is really not as scary as you might think. One of the reasons I love cruising alone is that I genuinely feel safe. I have cruised alone to the Eastern Caribbean, Bahamas, and even the Mediterranean. If we're docking in a port that I'm super unfamiliar with, I'm able to book a shore excursion through the cruise line so I don't have to venture off alone. One of my biggest regrets from my solo cruise on Carnival Celebration is that I didn't book a single shore excursion. Not only are they a great way to meet other travelers, but I would have been able to explore more of Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic. When on the ship, it's easy to strike up conversations with other passengers. You, of course, have to be willing to put yourself out there. You won't meet others if you stay in your stateroom all day. All right, that's all for now, y'all. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and visit Cruise Blog for more cruise tips and advice. Until next time, happy sailing!